Good evening. This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for January 27, 2014. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce, we have a new member of this board, Mike Paglia. I'd like to welcome aboard. Moving forward, before we get to the petitions, just like to remind everyone, if you plan on speaking on behalf of a petition, that you please sign in at the podium with your name and address before addressing the board. I'm going to take the agenda a little bit out of line here. We're going to start with the, under other business, this is a request to extend special permit at 41 Mile Avenue. Mr. Elides, if you want to address the board, please, regarding this request.
I will, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. George C. Elides, Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. And I'm here this evening with Mary Burns, who's the representative for Splash Media, the people who are owning and operating the billboard on Chelmsford at Route 3. I looked at the records and whatever, and I think Mr. Bailey was the only person who was really involved in this in the early stages. And it's interesting because back in 2008, Mary, we came in and we said, we have this great idea, and we talked about the billboards and all the wonderful things that the electronic billboards can do and whatever. And this board voted 5-0 to approve it, with the proviso that if and when the boards were approved, this was without LED lights, at that point, the state hadn't approved LED lights on billboards. So, and that board, that particular vote had conditions to come back. We came back, gave reports of what was happening, et cetera. Well, finally, in anticipation of state approval, the state provisionally approved some boards being used. And in anticipation of getting full approval for her board, Mary and her partners came back to the board here, because you can't file to the state for such a use unless you have the special permit here. And we went through it all here, and I think everybody understood and appreciated all the good things that we can do here with this piece of equipment. And the board voted again unanimously to approve it. That effective date of the approval of the LED lighting was February. Well, the 20 days expired on the 10th, and on the 11th it would be effective. Then whether it's the 10th or the 11th of February isn't critical, but what is critical is Mary has an application before the board in Boston, the Outdoor Advertising Board, for February 13th. And the city was requested to give information about the status of the special permit. I think I put in your record Adam's letter back to them that seemed to say that the permit would expire February 10th or 11th of 2012. Now we have the Permit Extension Act, and he said that would extend it to February 14th, February 10th or 11th, 2014. I respectfully disagree with that, but and I think you see that in my memo I gave you. I thought a pretty good, clear understanding of what the Permit Extension Act actually says. And because the permit was given in the year 2010, it was good until 2000, or it had to be acted upon, so it was in effect until 2012. The Permit Extension Act says we add 4 years to any of those permits. So, but to be safe and not to create any problems or anything, at Adam's suggestion by that letter, I agreed that I would file with you folks to ask that the special permit be extended for another 2-year period. And that's why I'm here this evening. Be glad to answer any questions. The one thing I do want to point out, made a mistake on the very first line of my little write-up to you. That date is September 8th, 2008, the first one up there. That's why I gave you that handout sheet. Okay. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Swati, any comments from the city regarding Mr. Elides' presence here this evening?
No. Okay. Staff is approving.
Right. So the 2 years that the petitioner is requesting is reasonable Yep. So the expectation would be within 2 years, hopefully through the state, you'll have the right-of-way to move
Right.
forward. Yeah.
Right, that's our next thing. We go in, get the state to approve it, and then Mary gathers the money and the energy and the wherewithal to make the conversion.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just open it up to the public. I'm not anticipating anybody being here, but anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? Favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition, hearing none. That portion of public hearing is closed. I'll just open it up to the board. Van, any questions?
No, I don't have any comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask, are there existing billboards in Massachusetts that are LED currently?
Those were put up provisionally as test boards. And then, is that the question you're asking me? The
I
ones
think
that are-
there's one on 93 South.
Yes,
in-
those were, there were how many, Mary, put up? There were 10. There were 10 put up around the state as test boards.
They're only test boards. They're wonderful, and I think they work really well, so kind of surprised this is a slow process, but I wish you well. I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as always, Mr. Leidy, your package is well prepared, and we're always looking forward to the LED exchange. This board is always in favor of that, and I wish you the best of luck.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
No questions or comments right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, a request to extend a special permit for 2 years at 41 Mile Avenue. Splash Media Group, I make a motion to approve.
All right, so, just so is it going to be 2 years from today? So it'll be January 27, 2016, right? Okay. All right, can I have a second?
Second the motion.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Paglia?
Approved.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Leides?
Thank Mr. Perrin for his kind words, too. I don't know how many more times I'll be back here, and...
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good evening. Yep. Okay, next matter before us is, back to the regular agenda, is under continuances. This is ZB 2013-33. The petition's a special permit. The applicant is Kazanjian Enterprise. Property is located at 150 Wood Street. Petition is to renovate an existing home and construct 2 new buildings, one of which shall contain a drive-through for the proposed banking establishment pursuant to Article 12.4G, Section 2 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Kazanjian.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Alan Kazanjian, Kazanjian Enterprise. We're here this evening for a drive-through for the bank that's going to be at 150 Wood Street, and also a curb cut of 30 feet that was added on. Talking to Aaron Clausen and Joe Genowitz,
So I guess I will interrupt you, but Swathy, my understanding is because of the curb cut, we'll have to seek a variance for that? Is that,
That's
make sure I get this right?
correct.
Yes.
Okay. Continue.
So to additional from the drive-through will be a 30-foot curb cut on Wood Street.
Can you just update us where you are today with just conservation and planning
Yes,
board, if you can?
we've got approvals from Conservation and also Planning Board this past Thursday. So that's why we're in front of this board, and hopefully we can get the approvals for that.
So any conditions, I guess, Swati, back to you again. Any conditions that's been reached with this petitioner with conservation and planning
Yes,
will be incorporated? Yeah.
With conservation, it has been basically updating the landscape plan, which they submitted on Friday. And the other condition was to use some of the stones, but that's totally kind of like an architectural or restoration effort. I have provided in the packet the comments for all the conditions that were part of the planning board approval has been presented to you. And also, we discussed in depth with our transportation planner, and it is in his opinion that without that curb cut, it will be difficult for large trucks to access the site. So the DPD review is basically in favor of enlarging the curb cut beyond the allowed 25 feet for that zone.
Okay. So the plans with the curb cut, have those been presented to the planning board, or is this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was actually requested from DPD. We had a normal 24-foot curb cut, and they requested the 30 feet.
Okay. Okay, so since we were handed the plans this evening, obviously, we didn't have these before the meeting. Can you just, I guess, point out, if you could, where the curb cut would be, Mr. Kazanjian?
The curb cut is right on Wood Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in relation to
It's
the
between,
existing home, is it,
it's between the existing home and the new, one of the new commercial buildings.
okay, all right. All right. And as far as the other reason why you're here for the special permit, so on the queuing, it looks like we're allowing for, is it five cars or six? Just want to make sure. It looks like, in the plan submitted tonight, it looks like we're talking 5 cars that are in the queue. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. And since we've had a couple of these come before us before with, so I see you got stop signs, located throughout the site, including stop signs, for instance, there's one exiting out to Westford Street, so that's in place. And parking, so, okay. Anything else you want to add at this point? I know between planning and conservation, you've kind of been through the proverbial ringer, I guess, on this.
Yeah,
one,
pretty
so-
much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anything else you want to add at this point?
No, that's about it right now.
All right. I'm going to open it up to the public.
Oh, absolutely, yep.
Yep. Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Nancy Judge. I reside at 28 Fosh Street in the Highlands section of Lowell, and I also co-chair the Highlands Neighborhood Association. I would just like to let this board know that, as I stated last week at the Planning Board, Kazanjian Enterprises did meet with the Highlands Association on several occasions, and also with the Planning Board, and this board, and Conservation over the past several months. I do believe that we did have some concerns and issues in the beginning, but they've all been addressed by Kazanjian Enterprises. So I would like to ask this board to approve the special permit as long as Kazanjian Enterprises has met all of your requirements. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Yep. Yes, sir.
My name's Donald Sterling. I reside at 8 Wamisit Court in Lowell. I've lived and worked in the city all of my adult life, especially the Dutton Street area. And I'm against any project Mr. Kazanjian takes on in this city based on what he's done to our neighborhood, the Dutton Street neighborhood. He's left things a mess down there. I'm not going to get into it anymore. I'm going to,
Excuse me. Well, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to focus on the petition at hand. Chairman, open to the public to speak in opposition or in favor to the petition at hand.
yeah,
I would-
I'm against the position at hand based on what he's done in my neighborhood. That's all I have to say. My
Thank you.
girlfriend would like to speak too as well.
All right, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Shirley Blanchard. I'm a homeowner at 81 Mr. Court. I'm in a butter of Mr. Kazanjian on all four sides. And I just wanted to let you know that since Mr. Kazanjian changed the zoning and purchased 4 of the 6 historic houses in my neighborhood beside me, my life has been a living hell. It's been a nightmare. He tore down one of them, and he left 2 of them sitting empty and unsecured for years. And believe me, for years, I laid in bed at night listening to make sure that the homeless wasn't breaking in, you know. I've lived in fear of being burned down, flooded out, and without power till 3 a.m. one morning because his dump truck came down and ripped the power lines off my house. So, and that happened several times, including the cable and my phone line. So, Mr. Kazanjian has made being a homeowner in the city of Lowell a very unpleasant experience for me, and I just hope it doesn't happen again in another neighborhood.
Okay, ma'am.
So, thank you, that's
Yep,
just
thank
all
you
I
very
wanted
much.
to say.
Thank you. Yep. All right, anybody else like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition, hearing none. That portion of public hearing is closed. I'd like to open up to the board. Van.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Kazanjian, I just want to say thank you for all your patience and hard work with the different various boards and commissions you've been working with and working with the neighborhood association to resolve this issue. So I appreciate your patience in this matter. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions, but I think the plan's much improved over what was originally submitted, but I just have a couple of questions. The property that is remaining unused, is there a plan for how that's going to be dealt with?
Not at this point in time, no.
Okay. But that is a buildable area, I take it, for
Oh,
commercial?
no, definitely not. It's all flooded and swamp area.
There's a piece that's inside the 50-foot buffer zone that's dry that you originally were proposing for the relocation of the historic home?
It's in the floodplain, and that's one of the reasons why we couldn't put it there.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. And it looks like you have more than ample queuing space here with 5 spaces per lane, and then...
Correct.
So the impact on the traffic flow on Westford Street should be controlled, at least?
Well, we believe so. We had a traffic engineer working with DPD and with Eric Eby and on his city traffic engineer,
Okay,
and they worked everything out.
great. It looks like a win for everybody with the reallocation of the structures here, so I'm impressed with how it worked out.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I want to take the moment to thank Mr. Kazanjian for preparing this package, working with all the different boards within the city, and from a member standpoint, it's always nice to hear that a developer reaches out to our local neighborhood groups who have a direct impact in how things happen in the neighborhood. I do speak for myself that you're always well prepared, and I take homage to that and appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you, Gary. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Kazanjian, also for your presentation. I'm happy to see that, I know you've gone through planning and conservation and worked with DPD, and the historic home is being saved. I know part of it can come down. The porch, I think, is...
The front porch, which really is not detrimental to the house whatsoever. And so we're going to be taking the front porch just for to widen the roadway on Wood Street.
Okay. And I see from the plan that there's couple of small land swaps so that the city
Correct.
can do the work on Wood Street, but you have some work that you're going to do on Westford, or is the city working on
We're
Westford?
actually giving the city some land on Westford Street, to widen Westford Street, and also some land on Wood Street to widen Wood Street also.
Okay. So I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, if I look at the criteria we need for the approval of the special permit, as I stated in the beginning, looking at the plans and having done this before with other petitioners for the drive-up for the ATM machine and the bank operation in general, I believe you have a great plan here. Obviously, you've put a lot of work into this, and I believe you've met the criteria for the special permit. So I guess tonight we'd be actually voting on the special permit and the variance that's before us. So anybody else have any other questions before type of motion?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask, I just want to understand the land taking. I just noticed that the street widening is being proposed here for the additional lane, for the left turn lane into the property.
Correct.
I was at a presentation a number of years ago, and I think it's ongoing for the whole corridor that is from Route 3 to the other side of the bridge for access improvements. Has that weighed in at all here with?
Not at all, no, not at all.
It hasn't? Because
That's still in the works.
It's still in the works. It's a long road there for that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so since the applicant has met the requirements for both the special permit and the variance, we'll take two separate votes on this petition this evening. So could I have a motion on the special permit first?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is ZB 2013-33 for a special permit at 150 Wood Street. I make a motion to approve to include the conditions in the project summary by DPD.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second motion?
Have a roll call? Approved.
Mr. Paglia,
Approved.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve?
Mr. Peck,
Approve.
Mr. Perrin.
Approve.
Thank you.
Okay, and if I could have a motion, please, on the variance.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is ZB 2013-33 for a variance at 150 Wood Street. I make a motion to approve to include the project summary conditions by DPD.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Okay. Guess I don't have to ask for a roll call, huh? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Bailey,
Approved.
Mr. Paglia,
Approved.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve?
Mr. Peck,
Approve.
Mr. Perrin.
Approved.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kazanian, wish you best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next matter before us is another continuance. This is ZB 2013-42. The petition's a special permit. The applicant is 22 Old Canal LLC. The property is located at 22 Old Canal Drive. Petition to allow a medical professional office use with some counseling services on site. The property is currently vacant and lies in the light industrial zoning district pursuant to Article 12, Table of Uses of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Broderick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you. I'm here representing 22 Old Canal LLC, who is a proposed buyer of the property at 22 Old Canal Drive. I have with me the representatives of the proposed tenant, South Bay Mental Health, which would, the property would be upfitted for them to perform their services. Gene Sullivan is here on my right. He is the engineer, and Mr. Goodman is representing the representative of the LLC. As you stated, this is an application for a special permit to allow for medical use in a light industrial area. And we're here before you because the services that will be provided, although mostly professional office use, will have some component of patient care. South Bay provides much-needed mental health services to the Lowell community. They presently have 2 offices in Lowell, and they're growing and would like to stay in Lowell. And this would be an opportunity for them to consolidate, add more jobs to the community, and much-needed services to the Lowell community. As I stated, the offices will be used primarily for administrative purposes, filing, billing. The majority of the counseling is provided off-site, and they do have some inpatient care for counseling as well. And those, if you have specific questions, the folks from South Bay could answer any questions you may have. And first, as you know, for a special permit, we look at the social impact. South Bay performs a great community service, and they want to stay in the community. It would be a positive upside to the community for them to relocate, consolidate, and provide more service, more much-needed services in this community. Traffic flow and parking issues. There was a recommendation for efficiency parking totaling 84 spaces. A plan was provided with 86. That is going to need some tweaking because I believe for light industrial, we're going to have, the engineer is going to redesign that for 9.5-foot wide parking spots, and whatever else the board may, in their wisdom, ask for that we can accommodate. But it meets the parking requirements for a special permit. Utilities, there is virtually no impact. Neighborhood characteristics, currently it's an industrial and professional business area. The proposed use and renovations will increase the overall quality in the neighborhood, and probably likely the value of the surrounding properties as well. There is no impact on the natural environment, and as far as fiscal impact, the proposed owner would be looking to invest approximately $750,000 in this portion for South Bay, which would increase the value, hopefully, and also which would increase the tax revenue to the city. It would help retain jobs, but also add jobs as well, and provide much-needed support to the residents, and actually also the surrounding businesses that people eat at and use. Essentially, this is South Bay's mission is to help people and to keep them in the community, in the city, an opportunity for them to reach out and help more people. Could be a win-win situation for the city of Lowell. And the engineer is here for the specific questions later, but.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think before we get started, Swati, I have a question. This is going to be an administrative question. You know, obviously I'm very familiar with the site, and I'm sure the board members are also. And I took a couple of rides out during the week. In fact, I even took another ride yesterday. And one observation that I made, and this is administrative, did you post anything for the special permit outside? Because I know the previous petitioner has postings out there. Was there anything posted by this petitioner? I mean, when I drove around the facility a couple of times, and what actually drew my attention to it was the previous petitioner still has his public notifications up there, so I wanted to ask about that, because that actually came before the other petitioner previously, so I wanted to ask about that.
We haven't followed up. It's usually anticipated that they do it as part of the
Yep.
notification process, just like
Yep.
the abutters. So we haven't checked on that.
Okay, well, I guess I want to make it publicly known that nothing was posted, and
Okay.
it's my understanding it's supposed to be administratively at least 14 days prior to a public hearing. I'm just throwing it out there, to be honest with you. I took the drive by, and
Right.
it's just, I happened to be driving out of there, and I noticed the other petitioners were still up there, and then I actually got out of the car and went and checked all the signs, just to make sure that they're all from the previous one. So is that something we can still proceed with, or is there anything that administratively we need to be concerned with?
It has to be notified for the period. That is the,
So I'm not trying to stir something up, but just because of the what happened on this last petitioner there. I wanted to put that out there, because if it was posted, if you could tell me where it was, I didn't see it. So I don't, you know, I'll defer to you, Mr. Broderick, but, you know, the rules are the rules, and
Correct.
I just want to put it out there before we get started.
I'm not aware of the posting.
Yeah.
So,
So I would move that we unfortunately continue this and get the posting properly put up there, and then we can talk about a continuance date.
okay.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I believe that's what we need to do, and I don't want to be called on the carpet for it, or this board, because it wasn't enforced.
No, you have to,
Okay? So if we, I would assume that's something that your client or could get done in a reasonable fashion. So if we got to do the 14 days, I don't know if we'll make it to the next meeting, right? Well,
The next meeting is...
next meeting
the-
is February 10th. I think we're going to cut it close. but-
Yeah. Provided, unless
Is
they
that
do it like
Is that
today.
calendar days on the 14th?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
calendar days.
Okay.
So unless they have it posted like right away, we might be cutting it short.
All right, so Mr. Broderick, I think what we'll do is we'll continue it to February 10th under the condition that you get it up there as quickly as possible. And if you don't meet the 14-day window, then obviously we can move it to the 24th. If you can just, I'll leave it to you to work that out.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, could I have a motion to continue, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before is ZB 2013-42 for a special permit to 22 Old Canal Drive. I'll make a motion to approve to February 10th, 2014.
So
Continue.
continue the February 10th, right? Yep. All right, could I have a second?
Second motion?
A roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Continue to February 10th.
Mr. Paglia?
Continue to February 10th?
Mr. McCarthy?
Continue to February 10th.
Mr. Peck?
Continue to February 10th.
Mr. Perrin?
Continue to February 10th.
Thank you.
Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2013-44. The petitions of variance. The applicant is BMH University LLC. The property is located at 124 University Avenue. Petitions to allow a proposed restaurant without meeting parking requirements pursuant to section 6.1.4 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Flood.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing BMH University LLC. Before we start, I would like to just hand these out to you, because we'll be referring to them during my presentation. Okay, with me tonight is Kathy Sardarelli, who is the manager of the LLC, who can answer any questions that this board might have. But we are requesting a variance from the parking requirements for the property at 124 University Avenue, so that she can open a portion of the first floor as a restaurant. She purchased the property in December of 2010, and after acquisition, she completely renovated the building. And I've passed out pictures of what it was before and what it was after, and you can see there's a great improvement to the neighborhood. Building consists of 4 stories. The top 3 are residential units, and the bottom has always been used for commercial use. Prior to my clients purchasing the property, as you can see on one of those pictures, there was a restaurant called Auntie's Neighborhood Deli on the first floor. Property is located at the intersection of University Avenue and Gresham Avenue, and the building was constructed prior to 1900. And as you can see from the site plan, it is located directly adjacent to a City of Lowell municipal parking lot. Also, and that parking lot has 49 metered spaces, and also on the street, there are 12 spaces along Gresham Avenue and University Avenue. My client has been working with a husband and wife team who are desirous of opening a small Mexican-style restaurant on a portion of the first floor of the building. They will sell mostly homemade tacos and burritos. It's located, as you know, it's located in close proximity to the University of Lowell North Campus, and it is anticipated that most of the traffic to the restaurant will be walk-ins from the university. The neighborhood has many similar restaurants that also do not have the required parking. Total square footage of the restaurant would be 1,385 square feet, and about half of it would be occupied by the kitchen and the new bathrooms. They're proposing 30 seats in the restaurant. As far as the staff comments are concerned, all trash will be removed by rollout bins and picked up by a private waste hauler. The concrete pad in the back was there in the prior building, and we have no intention of using it. As to the signage, I've given you a copy of the proposed sign. I'd also spoken to Joe Jenowitz about this before, and he indicated to me that the sign conforms to zoning, and since we intend to hang it on the building, we would have to go in front of the city council to get a license to maintain it over the sidewalk, which we intend to do if this is allowed. She intends to develop the restaurant in a first-class restaurant as she's done with the remainder of the building. And like I said, the area of the proposed use restaurant has always been used as a commercial use, so there's no change to the neighborhood. Because of the size of the lot and the size of the building located on it, she would suffer severe hardship if this petition was denied. Since the use is permitted, I don't think it would be any detriment to the neighborhood, and I'd urge this board to vote affirmatively on this request. We're here to answer any questions that you might have.
So I guess just the first comment I'll make in reference to the sign, Mr. Flood, you mentioned you talked to Joe Jenowitz, who's
Yes.
obviously not here. Swati, do you know?
I have an email from him in my file,
Okay.
if you want to
No,
see it.
I'm not doubting it. I just wanted to see if Swati had,
I have emails.
okay.
from him. I did
Just want to make
discuss
sure. Okay. Yep. And as you mentioned, because of the sign to be attached to the building and basically overhanging the sidewalk area, that's why you'd have to go before the council to get
Council,
approved
right.
for
It's
that.
going to be at least 10 feet up, as Joe told me it'd have to be 10 feet above the sidewalk, and we'd have to petition the city
Yeah.
council for approval.
So that'll be in as far as part of our conditions if we get to that point. Okay, anything else you want to add? All right. I'm going to open it up to the public. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the applicant, I think this is a great project. Anytime that you can get a vacant building occupied, it's a good thing for the city and for the neighborhood. I just had one quick question. This kind of business, do you expect more dine-in patrons or people like order and takeout? I'm just curious.
It'll be both, but I think primarily it'll be students coming in between classes to get a sandwich and takeout.
Okay.
But there will be some people coming in, of course, to sit down.
Okay. Okay, that's the only question I had. I think this is a good project, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through Mr. Chairman, Swati, I have a couple questions. But first, I just want to say that the property looks so much improved. It's amazing, the transformation, and nice job with the restoration of the building itself.
Right here.
Very, very, very good to see that kind of product in the city, for sure. So, Swati, the building is sizable with all these residential units and the additional commercial unit already on the site, without parking for any of it, because it's pre-existing non-conforming structure and use, which kind of seems to follow that the restaurant that was previously there, that the new restaurant going in would be pre-existing non-conforming use. But is it a time delay that's happened that causes us to have a variance just for this one piece of the whole project?
Yes.
So the fact that there was a restaurant there that was successful in the neighborhood, to some degree, it went out of business apparently, but whatever happened, happened.
It's probably because the restaurant, the original restaurant went out prior to 2010, Dennis, and there's 2 years for abandonment, so that's why they've asked us to come in for the variance. But there was no parking before.
I'm sorry, there's 2 years
On an abandonment, yes, there's 2 years.
abandonment. So in 2012, if you had the restaurant up and running, there wouldn't need
We wouldn't.
have a variance. And this is 2014, so it's 4 years, 2.5, 3.5, whatever it is, but.
But she went through the whole renovation process in
right,
doing the
and
building
it was
over.
a bit of a down economy, and so it's circumstances that kind of have this situation. It's too bad, because it's too bad that you have to be here at all, because it seems to be one of these situations that if you could have maybe got an extension or something for pre-existing non-conforming use or some sort of vehicle that would allow you to keep this active as a retail, and it's a perfect spot for it, you're absolutely right. And the fact that you have a parking
Right next
lot
door.
next door that's, granted, it's not your parking, but it certainly does satisfy that whole necessary requirement for parking.
There's 12 spaces on the seat.
I know,
right around
60,
it, yeah.
61 spaces total.
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite a number. You're absolutely right. So I'm not sure that every letter of the variance criteria is met, but it does make perfect sense to restore this to the location. So, and especially knowing the service that you provided in restoring the building itself, and the quality that you've provided with the maintenance and the restoration. So I think it's a good project. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I do want to echo to council, to the petitioner, what a fabulous job he did with that piece of property over at that site. Just knowing the site, and being in the city as well as looking at these pictures, it was a job well done, great undertaking, and anytime residents take on projects to increase the value of the property, it increases the value of the city as well. And in bringing in this business, I'm sure you'll fare well over there. Just as it relates to the dumpster and carting the waste off-site, what's that schedule going to be?
It'll be tied into the residential units up
Piece?
above. Yeah,
Okay.
be the same time.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
So I guess, well, I was going to ask the same thing, because I like to talk about exciting things like waste and dumpsters. So it's going to be shared? You said it's going to be shared with the units upstairs?
Well, they'd be picked up the same time because she brings the trash down to the units upstairs, so there'll be a private waste hauler that'll take it out.
Right. So, Swati, so when it's a shared service, does this board have to get involved with screening and all that other stuff, or is it, once it's shared, it's acceptable the way the service is provided right now?
If there is a dumpster located, it will have to be screened, if it's a commercial-sized dumpster.
Okay. Did you provide any pictures with?
There's no dumpster. They're going to be roll-out bins that they're going to take out and be picked up by
Now,
the...
you've only told me like 3 times, but I'm getting older and I don't hear as much.
So am I.
Yep, I know. Okay, thank you. Gary? Hey, getting even older by the minute. Mike?
I guess I have a fascination with dumpsters and roll-out bins too, because I just have a follow-up question to that. I mean, how many bins, if there's already some existing for the residential and the other commercial tenant? Oh, I'm sorry. Through you, Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Hello, I'm
That's
Kathleen
fine.
Sartorelli. I own the property at 124 Riverside, University Ave. Right now, we have 2 containers. I'm contracted with Greenwood Earth Savers Corporation, and they dump the containers Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I need additional pickups, it's just a phone call. I anticipate we'd probably need another bin or 2, and, possibly on a Monday, another pickup or something. But I wouldn't know until the business went in, but that's how I foresee it.
Okay, I mean, I was just curious if there was going to end up being 10 or 12 bins lined up along the back of the...
I didn't want to do that. I own other property in the area, and I contracted with Greenwood because instead of having 9 bins lined up that are emptied on one day of the week, I opted to have 2 bins dumped more frequently, daily if necessary. Even several times a day, rather than having that trash build up days on end. So that's what I've done with my other residential properties, and that's what I intend to do for the commercial as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I do.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I have one additional question, if I could. We're making improvements here to what was there before, which is wonderful. I just want to understand how handicapped access is being solved. Is that through the door at the covered porch area?
Access to we still on trash.
He wants to know about handicapped access.
Oh, there's a ramp. It's ramped in the front, is that what you mean, to get into the commercial area?
I don't see the ramp in the exhibits that were provided.
I don't know.
There's a concrete stoop with no railings that's probably a foot high. And I don't know how that qualifies as a ramp, but...
Is that doable?
If you want to, sure, yep.
I may.
So you can see the side elevation here where the front is? And is this concrete stoop?
That's the back. That's the back.
It's right there.
Okay. Mike was all set, right? You all set? What's your questions? Yeah. Okay, well, the first thing I'll state is I'll agree with my board members. When I took a drive out there and, per usual, sat outside the place, checked it out, just the outside, the way it's been redone, it looks magnificent. So obviously, to me, it actually stood out as it stays on that corner, so, great job on that. And obviously you're here because of the parking requirements, and, I guess I would almost label it, the hardship is that you don't have the opportunity to meeting the parking requirements of
On site, no?
where you're at, and there's plenty of businesses up and down there, so this isn't anything totally unique. What I think is unique, at least you have the public parking right behind you. Not like it's down a couple of blocks and you got to get there. So I fully believe that the petitioner meets the prerequisites for the variance. from what I heard through the proceedings, the only condition, and somebody else can jump in if you have something else you want to add, would be the city council approval for the signage. So my understanding would be you would need that before you could even hang that. Is that, how quickly does something like that happen?
I think we would file a request by letter to the city clerk and be forwarded to the law department to draw up the ordinance, and then we'd appear. So we'd quickly, probably be heard by the time an appeal, the appeal would be up on this, so.
Okay. I hope that materializes. Any comments regarding this petition, please?
One last one, the lighting of that sign is going to be done with externally illuminated sources?
Not internally, no.
Not internally, great.
External.
Yep, thank you.
Did anybody ask, or was it anything in the package, the business hours? I'm just curious what the business hours are.
No, I don't know that yet because we haven't signed a lease or anything, because we've got to get the use first.
Yep, all right. All right, could I have a motion, please? Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZB 2013-44, for a variance at 124 University Avenue. I make a motion to approve with the following condition. The petitioner must get approval for signage through the city council.
Have a second?
Second the motion.
Could I have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Paglia?
Approve with conditions?
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with condition.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Hey, Mr. Flood?
Thank you very much.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, next matter before us is ZB 2013-48. The petition's a variance. The applicant is M. Carolyn Cox. Property is located at 76 Chatham Street. The petition is to maintain existing two-family home without required land area per dwelling unit pursuant to Section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Flood.
Once again, Mr. Chairman, for the record, James Flood, 549 Rod Street, Lowell, Mass., representing the petitioner M. Carolyn Cox. And we are here requesting a variance to maintain an existing two-family lot on Lot B on an A&R plan that was approved and recorded in 2005 without the required land area per dwelling unit. Do you have a copy of that A&R plan in your package from 2005? I have extra copies if you don't. It's this one here. I can. Okay. Let me just do this. My client purchased the property with her cousin John Conway back in 2004. It was always her hope to subdivide the property into two lots, so a new single-family home could be constructed on Lot A as shown on that plan. According to the records in the City of Lowell Assessor's Office, the existing home at 76 Chatham Street was constructed in 1940 prior to the adoption of zoning within the City of Lowell. In 2005, a subdivision plan was submitted and approved, and it has been recorded at the Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds and Plan Book 217, Plan 111. Because of the economy back in 2006, it was decided not to build at that time, but we're back in here tonight. I mean, I'm sure you people drove by it, and the existing home at 76 Chatham Street does in fact look like a single-family home, but has always been used as a two-family home. There will be no change whatsoever to the existing home. As according to the plan that we submitted from our house surveying, there's sufficient parking with the existing home, and there's sufficient usable open space. If this petition is allowed, a single-family home will be constructed on Lot A, which would conform with all City of Lowell zoning requirements. And the single-family home would definitely conform with the character of the neighborhood. It would also conform with the minimum lot size as required in the TSF zone. And in addition, the city would benefit by the additional taxes realized from the new home. Now, due to the size of the entire lot and the location of the pre-existing structure located on it, petitioner will suffer a hardship if this request is denied. A review of the existing homes on both Chatham Street and Upham Street indicate that most of the lots are of similar size or smaller size. There are also other two-family homes in the neighborhood. The proposed development of a single-family home on the adjacent lot is consistent with the character of the neighborhood, and construction of a single-family home is also consistent with the City of Lowell master plan. What would happen would be the construction of a single-family home on the additional lot. I think it would not derogate from the intent of, from zoning, and it would not be a substantial detriment to the public good. So I'd ask that this petition could be approved. Carolyn Cox is here tonight to answer any questions that you might have. But I think the proposal would conform directly with the neighborhood.
Okay, so, so if we're talking about, well, let's,
We're talking about maintaining the existing home, and
Yep.
the other lot does conform.
yep, so the current structure will continue to be a
Two-family home.
two-family home, and I believe there's other, at least one other, if not two,
I think there's
multifamilies on the street.
correct, and there's one on Upham too.
Yep. Yeah, well, I'm not sure who was on this board, but I was on this board when we also entertained a petition for the same street, approximately, I think it's like 2 lots down, same side. Not that one's the same as the other, but just want to use that as historical reference that this board has had a petition before it on the same street. So if there's a plan to construct a new unit, do you have any plans for what's going up?
No, no architectural work has been done yet because we didn't know whether this would be approved, but it would conform with all respects to the dimensional requirements of the city, and, conform to zoning. I mean, we could, no problem bringing it in, so you can review it before anything happens. I don't have a problem with
Well,
that.
that's another reason why I'm using the historical reference, that we've already entertained a petition before on the same street, and we were given a set of plans that we could entertain and take a look at. Swati, any comments on that based on, the petitioner, why they're here? I understand why they're here, but if we're talking about constructing on the new, I'll call it the new lot, putting up a new structure, does this board need a set of plans before it to at least entertain that?
I think the comments primarily are addressing the existing structure more than the proposed lot, because the proposed lot taken on its own, meet all the dimensional requirements and is definitely a buildable lot. So it is the density that plays into effect for the other lot, which will be, which is only the size of a single-family lot, but having a double structure on it. I mean, a double unit, dwelling unit on it. So more concern is for the existing structure than the quality of the lot that will be created as a buildable lot.
Right, but the existing structure is a two-family, has been a two-family, correct?
Yes, but at that time it had the dwelling area, dwelling unit, area per dwelling unit to the zoning code at that point. But right now, we are looking at reducing it to a size where it will be compatible for only one dwelling unit for that lot. But it's a grandfathered in structure, so it's up to the board to decide if it's in character with the neighborhood to permit the continuing use of the two-family in a smaller lot.
Okay. So we're not here to entertain the other, I'll call it Lot B, I guess, right?
Well, primarily, only after getting this variance approved will the other lot
Okay.
be created legally.
All right, okay.
So
I
the
just wanna
other
make
lot
sure
is
I understand
definitely
it.
buildable for all purposes.
Okay,
It would conform, the other lot would conform.
yeah. Well, I hope you understand why I'm
I
asking the
understand
question. I just
completely,
want to
Mr.
make
Chairman.
sure, I'm clear. There could be others that aren't clear either, but I want to make sure we're all talking the same thing. Okay. And that's why, when you handed this out, that's what made me also think about what we were entertaining here, In other words, what was the purpose of this? I understand the purpose of it, but, okay, anything else you want to add at this point? Mr. Flood? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone here would like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name's Robert Dover. I live at 83 Chatham. I've lived there for 20 years. The neighborhood has changed in the 20 years. It's got a lot younger families in it, smaller kids. It is a dead-end street, and most of the homes on the street have 2-3 cars already. I just recently purchased a small lot next to me at 97 Chatham, just to have open space. Somebody bought it and rehabbed it, and I bought part of that parcel off that just to have open space.
Okay.
I'm against this because it's a two-family, it's always been a two-family, and the tenants before that used to use that side yard every weekend. And if you build a house, and you alluded to it,
Yep.
the other 2 doors down, they tore a house down and put this monstrosity. Yeah, it looks nice, but there's no yard to it. It's a traditional single-family neighborhood, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah. Yep.
You ruins the neighborhood,
All right, so you said you're at 83?
83, yes. I've lived there for 20 years. I've done
Right,
numerous
so
improvements.
is your home next door to the open lot?
It's directly across the street.
Across the street, that's 83 across the street, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've spent hundreds of thousands on my house, rehabbing it and
Yep,
doing everything to it. And
okay,
it's a beautiful neighborhood. We don't need another house jammed in the neighborhood.
okay, but we're not, we're
Well,
not talking
They're looking
about,
for the variance to shrink the two-family down so they'll have a lot to put another house there.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need another house in the neighborhood. We don't
Okay.
need, they did that up on Stevens Street last year. The guy split the land, jammed the house. I mean, the neighborhoods did be like Centerville pretty soon. The Highlands is beautiful. Let's keep it that way.
Yep. Okay.
That's why I moved there.
okay.
All right,
All right,
thank
sir.
you.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I live at 83 Chatham Street. My name's Margaret Dover.
Yep,
It is a dead-end street, number one. I don't see any hardship involved with them wanting to put another house there. I thought that was one of the criteria for granting a variance. I am definitely opposed to it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none. That portion of public hearing is closed. Going to open up to the board. Van.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the applicant. I drove by the property, and it's a nice looking property. I just want to say, for a variance, there's 3 criterias, and I believe you meet 2 out of the 3 prerequisites. But I would like to hear, like, what's, I guess, the hardship?
Well, the hardship is the prior house was constructed prior to the adoption of zoning by the city of Lowell. There was no requirement for land area per dwelling unit. Then zoning came in, became a TSF zone. The house was there, it's always been there. We've got 2 lots now that conform with the land area, the minimum lot size for the zoning district. And I think she should have a chance to be able to build on the other lot. Now, if there's a concern about what that's going to look like, the other house is going to look like, because something's happened in the past, I would have no problem if we had a conditional approval stating that the design of the building to be constructed would have to be approved by this board before it was done. If that was the concern, because a large house was put in there. But that would be my argument on hardship, because the house was constructed prior to the adoption of zoning. And I don't think it's a situation where this board would want them to tear it down and build 2 new single-family homes. That doesn't make any sense, because it could be done. So she maintains the house. There's plenty of space there. There's plenty of parking there. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful property. I'm just curious, are the neighborhood neighbors or the abutters, did you get a chance to speak with them, like the other?
Well, I gave you one letter from 60 Chatham Street, who was in favor of it.
Yeah,
So
okay,
that's all I've spoken with.
okay. That's all the comments I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Van. Dennis.
Through Mr. Chairman, the existing house seems to have a square footage that's roughly 16 to 1,800 square feet. It's not overly large. The units are probably less than 1,000 square feet each. So it's certainly, I think, built in the day as a single family and converted at some point to a 2-family. And so at one point it was serviceable as maybe a 3 or 4 bedroom house on that street, which was single-family houses, and could certainly be successful, I think, in this economy as a single-family house if it was necessary. It does seem to meet a lot of the criteria for the lot as a single-family. So to have that as a successful single-family and the lot built on still somewhat decreasing the open area as another single family. So the gentleman, the neighbor's criticism of the open area being lost, it's already been somewhat lost because it's already been subdivided, the lot. So it's certainly available for a single family to be put there. So really the question is, do we want to allow this continued 2-family to continue here, as I understand it, because it seems as though the lots have already been subdivided, right?
Correct.
So lots have already been subdivided, and we currently have a 2-family use there that's grandfathered in.
As far as I've been able to research, it was.
I'm kind of wondering why we have a variance again, because if it's grandfathered in already.
The uses, but
Is it true that the lots are subdivided?
Yes, the lot has been subdivided, but the way it was subdivided to create 2 single-family lots. So right now, the structure has 2 addresses. One of the address will go to the new lot, unless a new address will be provided only if this variance is,
I think this was in 2005,
yes,
and
2005.
the property's been used as a two-family for the last 9 years, almost 8 years. And it's been taxed, I imagine, as a two-family on that single lot?
Yes.
And the other lot has been just an empty lot waiting to be built on?
I don't think for legal purposes that was considered as a taxable because there is no structure on it.
It was taxed maybe
It
as
was
just
the
land.
same owner, so this
This is
is,
still a separate lot in 2005.
yes, but for tax purposes, it was looked
Okay.
upon as a single one. I know, it's complicated.
You seem to have plenty of parking.
It's 4 spaces. There's plenty of usable open space, too.
I mean, I understand Van's point that it could certainly be deemed that, but the fact that for the last 8 years, almost 9 years, it's been accepted by the city as a two-family and taxed as a two-family, used as a two-family on a subdivided lot seems to be kind of a done deal, in my opinion. I don't understand this requirement here at all.
So basically what happens is if the new lot right now exists as either the top address of that two-family.
My point, Swati, is that back in 2005, we suggested that it would be used as a single family, but we allowed it for the last 8 years to be used as a two-family.
Yes, but that was of the understanding that they are creating two single-family. So at that point,
Okay.
when they were going to go through the building process, the address that is existing as the second family unit will get transferred to that lot.
So back in 2005, there was a clear understanding when the subdivision took place that it would remain only as a single family and not as a two-family.
Yes,
And they never built on it, so it never got transferred.
yes.
Oh,
That was the intent at that
is
that
that documented?
process. Sorry?
Is that documented?
We have the issuance of the subdivision creating two single-family lots. But at that point, this variance was not sought at that time. So if this had been sought at that time, there would have been a more clearer conclusion.
Seems a little sloppy.
I understand,
Seemed a
but
little sloppy.
it's up to the applicant to pursue through the steps. We cannot force an applicant to pursue a variance at that time. If they don't intend to build, the two-family structure existing, over 2 lots is fine. Because they're not getting taxed on the new lot until there is a unit on it.
I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but in 2005, if it was accepted as a single-family lot and we continued to accept it occupied as a two-family, as a multiple residence on that single-family lot, how does that happen? How can we, if we deemed it as a single-family and accept it?
No, it is the grandfathered in use that is existing. There are lots of single-family lots which have existing two-family buildings on them. The problem is if there is a building permit that is going to come to the department for a new construction, at that point, it will not be assigned a new address until there is resolution to the two-family unit, which needs a variance to exist as a two-family at that point.
Okay.
So it's a delayed action. I understand your predicament, but
Right.
this process should have happened then, ideally, but it didn't because of the applicant deciding to go through the process later to understand what, when they can actually act on the project.
Almost 9 years later. It's a long time. Okay. I'm confused, and I'm willing to listen to my colleagues, and thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, a few questions for the petitioner. As it exists as a two-family,
Has it?
as it is existing now as a two-family, what is the bedroom structure?
Carolyn, you want to, or John, you want to tell her what the makeup of the... Identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Jack Conway. How are you?
I'm well.
There's 2 families in each unit, Each unit is occupied by a single person at the moment.
Okay.
The small units, you could almost, well, they're 2 bedrooms, but you could almost call them 1-bedroom units.
So you subsequently have two-bedroom units
Yes,
occupied by single occupants, maintaining single car usage or parking
right.
subsequently.
And they've been there for several years.
Okay. Okay. As I look at this, subsequently, the creation of the variance is coming forward as a result of the house and the lot. So, as we look to the 2005 and we look to the variance itself, I think that the two-family does create the hardship to the single-family usage. So I do believe it does meet that criteria for the hardship, quite frankly, because it was subdivided. It was suitable, it was accepted as a two-family. So,
I don't want to make it more confusing, but I think if it was the intent that it be knocked down to build a single, it would have been on the plan, and it wasn't. The garage was knocked
right,
down.
it
Yeah.
was
I think
decided,
that
it was a
would've
choice, there was a choice
said that,
made, not to remove the home
Yeah.
and displace two families, quite frankly, at this point, and move forward with intentions that may have been there in 2005 and unable to come to fruition, and here we are to date. So I do believe the petitioner has met the criteria, and I do believe that the subdivision in 2005 actually created the hardship, is how I seem to interpret it, to a point. That being said, I understand it's a concern in the neighborhoods and the like. However, things change, correct?
Well, and they both conform with the size today, and it's been there for
Yeah.
years. I mean, it's,
The conforming, the square footage and the like, I believe meets the decision and the criteria for prerequisites, so I support the motion.
Thank you, Gary. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, through you to the applicant, I wanted to follow up. Somebody mentioned that we could set a condition on the size of the new house that's built as part of this. Is that correct? Or you suggested it?
I offered that if this board wanted to approve a plan prior to submittal to the building department, we have no problem with that. So you'll see what's going to go on there. And that goes to the character of the neighborhood presentation. So I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, and the second question, I guess I was just curious about neighborhood input. I mean, you did submit the letter from one neighbor, and then we have someone living across the street that has come here tonight to speak. So, again, where I'm new to the board, I'm not sure if it's something that is required or can be asked for, and that's to get more neighborhood input, because basically we right now have one neighbor in favor of this going forward and another neighbor who's not in favor, so.
Well, notice went out to all the neighbors in accordance with the requirement, and I have not, I mean, I received one call who was in favor of it, and that's on the same side of the street, a couple of houses down.
I guess I know that in prior cases, at least watching these meetings at home, not sitting here, but oftentimes neighbors make an effort, even though they've done their basic due diligence to notify neighbors or abutters as required, that I've seen in the past, neighbors who will, or the petitioner will go the extra mile and try to collect more support for changing the makeup of the neighborhood, so.
That's true in some situations where there's something that you think the neighborhood might be opposed to, but we do have two lots to conform with the minimum square footage for a lot. It's an existing house that's been there for years, so I didn't anticipate that there would be a lot of neighborhood opposition, so I didn't have a meeting with the neighbors.
I have no other questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Well, I can't recall in all the years I've been on the board, I don't think we've had this type of situation unless you can think of something that's, so we want to, the existing structure, you want to keep that as a two-family. That's what you're here to seek the variance for,
Right.
correct?
Yep.
So Swati, when I looked through the comments that we received from the city that we always do, what was explained here is, I believe, what you were trying to explain to Dennis, that when the property was purchased, the intent, I guess, of the dividing of the two lots was to have two single families. But obviously, there isn't a single family, there's a two-family there, correct? So I guess the first thing I'll ask is, was there, whether you know this or if Mr. Flood wants to jump in, was it a two-family when it was originally purchased? Do we know that? The existing structure, was it a two-family when it was purchased?
I'm not aware about that information, but I can check into that. But the owner should be able to.
They bought it.
So, Mr. Flood, if you can just address the board, please. Thank you.
Carolyn Cox. It was, when we purchased it, it was a two-family, existing two-family. We renovated it and had new tenants, but it was a two-family when we purchased it in 2005.
Okay.
Four.
Okay, yep. All right, and obviously, I think the other thing Dennis was asking, this isn't to pick on you, Swati, you know. Joe got away with murder tonight, obviously. We as a board don't have anything in front of us that says what the intention was and what was supposed to be followed. So I think it's a little bit difficult for the board to sit here and try to ascertain what happened. You know, if there was a two-family there, I guess pre-existing, and it continued to be a two-family. My understanding is, what you're trying to say is, it should be two single families, if the intention was, there should have been two families to have the subdivision performed. I think that's what you're trying to say to the board, correct?
I think the original subdivision was approved under the intent that the existing structure is going to be brought down and creation of two separate single-family on two separate lots. What the staff was trying to inform the board was trying to explain that for some reason the owner did not proceed with that plan, while it is appreciative of the fact that they're trying to retain the structure as it exists and maintain it that way. It is up to the board to decide the density it is creating on that new lot can be considered as a hardship to issue a variance.
Yeah, but the
Can I
variance,
just respond? If it was the intention that the original building be demolished or raised, it would have been on the plan, and it wasn't. It says existing building. It says existing garage to be raised. So it was never the intention of tearing down that building. So that's clear on the plan.
so you just made a comment about density. So what's the,
So if this,
Yep.
let's say if this petition gets approved, you're creating the new lot, the subdivided lot. If we retain the two-family structure, we are looking at what is considered as ideal for a single unit in terms of area per dwelling unit. We are creating a lot that is going to be more non-conforming as a two-family unit.
more non-conforming?
No, it is going to become a non-conforming lot at that point, because with this variance request, we are basically understanding, if we approve that as a hardship, we are, from a zoning perspective, it is a lot which has a higher density than the adjacent lot, which is only going to have an approved single family. Was that point clear? So let's say if we are looking at 5,000 square feet of land per unit, a positive decision of this petition is basically creating a nonconformity where we are approving a two-family in a lot that is of size that can only accommodate a single family.
So the square,
However, they're seeking a variance, so it is up to the board to weigh whether their hardship is meeting all the, requirements to grant a variance.
so the, Mr. Flood, did you prepare the zoning analysis? Was that, okay. So the 14,000 required, and then provided, is 14,000 is to represent
Combined.
combined?
Yes.
Okay. So the structure that has 7970, that's what you're reporting here, and the city reviewed that,
7970.
Yes.
so little under 8.
Yes.
So that leaves you with 6 for the other lot. Is that correct?
It leaves Lot A 7,028 square feet.
7,028.
Yeah, I know. Dennis?
Through Mr. Chairman, Swati, would it be possible to limit the expansion of the building structure on the lot with a condition?
No, if it meets all the dimensional requirements for a single-family lot, they can build up to whatever is allowed as if it is on any site.
I'm suggesting if we were to see this in a positive light, that the two-family is, got a hardship, and could it possibly be reasonable to set a condition that that structure not get expanded to 2 3-bedroom units or 2 4-bedroom units that would increase the density on that lot and make it completely out of kilter with the existing?
So you're talking about how to limit the expansion of the existing structure?
Of the existing structure.
You can do that.
As long as it is not making it any more non-conforming than it is,
Right.
that is something which they will have to seek any approval for any kind of extension on the existing property.
So we could, so it already would be?
Yes, it will be an automatic thing because
That if they
for
seek
the lot
to-
area, any expansion will be more non-conforming.
So that would already exist?
Yes. So the only thing staff was trying to provide as a, just to going beyond the extent. If this was zoned in a two-family area, let's say if Lot B exists as 7,970 square feet, it still will not qualify for a two-family to be in there because of the size of that lot.
And also because of the zoning
Yes.
criteria, that it's a single-family zone anyway.
Yes. So we are looking at doing that in a single-family zone. So that's why we had to take a stand, which was trying to explain, it wouldn't have qualified even for a two-family zone automatically. So now we are trying to do that in a single-family zone.
Did that help at all?
So the other, when I was talking about the comments from the city, one of the words that was used was dominated immediate neighborhood is dominated by single family. I wouldn't disagree, but there are two families. Just stating for the fact, I mean, there are some two families.
Yes, we didn't say there aren't any. There were no more number of single family than two family on that particular street.
Well, you know, I think if I hear what Dennis was asking before, you know, I don't think this one is a easy answer, and I hate to say it that way, but, you know, I can't disagree with Dennis's, when he was talking about, you know, prior non-conforming, and the building has been there, obviously it's been there for many years. And if it's been a two-family for many years, I guess I'm struggling with, so we're going to turn around and change it from a two-family to a single. And then that makes everything okay to have the single for the vacant lot. Is that what we're saying?
Unfortunately, I was not here when the subdivision happened, so I cannot speak on behalf of what was the original intent of that subdivision plan. I can definitely take a look at the minutes and try to understand more about that. We were basically addressing the existing petition for the variance, and so we were looking at what is the zone for that parcel. And then we were trying to understand with this petition how much of, you know, the proposed request is making it non-conforming. So that was the only intent, but I can definitely provide more details from the original subdivision plan approval process, if that would help the board trying to understand or come to a decision whether this meet the requirements for a variance approval.
Well, I guess what I'm struggling with, we have nothing that tells us that, I hate to say it this way, something was done illegal and they shouldn't have had a two-family. I haven't seen anything that documents that. That's one thing. Second thing is, so it sounds to me like if somebody purchased that property, they could go from a 2 to a 1.
Yes,
with
because
not a-
that
with
is
a-
by
with no
right.
issues.
Yes,
But if it was a
because-
single and all of a sudden they wanted to make it a two-family today, they'd have a problem.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this is where I struggle with the pre-existing, because it's been in existence for quite a number of years.
It was built in 1940.
Right, and I don't know if it's been a two-family since
I
1940.
can't answer that.
I know,
I wasn't born then.
I know.
But close.
I know. That's the part that's a little bit of a struggle for me,
But it-
trying to understand what we're doing here.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think we're somewhat protected in approving this tonight if we wish to, in that the property can't be expanded and increase the density in the neighborhood to have 2 3-bedroom units, if you would. It would mean 6 cars or whatever, 7 cars on the lot, which would be a problem, I think, on that street. And the fact that it would be requiring variance again, if there was any expansion to increase bedrooms,
Yes.
which would, if it's only 2-bedroom units, it's relatively small, and maybe there's 2 cars each, so there's 4 cars. I don't see that we have a big issue with looking on this favorably as a pre-existing condition that we should accept because there's a small structure, and does fit in, I think, as a reasonable structure to maintain rather than to tear down and build a new structure that would be potentially larger. So I kind of like that fact that if we were to accept this, we would be kind of locking in a smaller structure as far as the density on that street, which would be a benefit I would see.
Okay. Any other comments from the board members?
I have one quick question,
Sure,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman.
Yep.
Through you to Swati. If hypothetically, if we approve this petition tonight, so if they wanted to build, once they plan to build in the new lot, they would still have to get like a building approval and a plan, and they'll still go through a certain process, so we would be still kind of
Yes, as
the
long as,
safeguard.
as long as they meet the dimensional requirements of that lot, it will be issued as a general building permit. It will not need any land board review unless this board chooses to place that as a condition of this approval for the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So your question was, if they're gonna build on the other lot, does it need to come before us again? I don't believe so, as long as you meet all the dimensional requirements, right? There's no reason to come before us. All right. It doesn't have to go to planning, does it? Yep, okay. All right. Well, I guess, you know, I'll go first, if anybody else is gonna speak, but, you know, I appreciate, you know, the neighbors coming tonight. And again, I can only talk to, we've had a petition on that street before. I can't say any of these other members were, but I was. And I don't recall. I think there was a couple of neighbors that might have showed up and were for or against the project. But it did go through. But tonight's petition, you know, if I look at the criterias, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I think the special hardship here is on the structure itself because of, it was a two-family and it continues to be a two-family. Dennis has made some comments about, you know, the structure itself and nothing really changing, so, and I haven't heard anything from any other neighbors that have showed up tonight and said, you know, it's been a two-family, it's been nothing but craziness there and parties and everything else, so I'm not aware of. And I know the neighborhood pretty well. I know it's a nice dead-end street. I can appreciate a dead-end street. I'm on one myself. So that's the one piece on the special hardship because I think it's the structure itself. And then relief granted without substantial detriment to the public good. I just don't see where there's any substantial detriment. Nothing's been displayed to me on this board, and relief can be requested, can be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent of the zoning, so I don't believe that's the intent here either. So with that said, I'm going to approve the, I'm going to vote in favor of the variance, but I can tell both you people this has been not an easy decision, at least for me on this board, to kind of go through this, so I hope you can respect that. All right, any other comments before I ask for a motion? Anything with conditions? I don't think there's any conditions I've heard either. So with that said, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is ZB 2013-48 for a variance at 76 Chatham Street. I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approve.
Mr. Paglia?
Approved.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mrs. Flood, thank you. Have a good night. Okay, next matter before us is under new business. This is ZB 2013-45. The petition's a special permit for usage. The applicant is James Lakulis. The property is located at 300 Jackson Street, and the petition's to operate massage therapy establishments on the 4th and 5th floor of the building pursuant to Article 12, Table of Uses of the zoning ordinance. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. How are you, Chairman? Members?
It's a long night. Having a great time. Yeah.
All right.
So what would you like to tell us about this petition?
Yes, my name is Sarah Hand. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Lachulis. We have a new facility over on 250 Jackson Street, and we would like to ask your permission to offer massage therapy services in that new structure. It's kind of part of an overall intention that we have to offer healthy living options to the community in that area, and also as part of an enticement to new businesses that we are hoping to bring into the space who might like to offer that kind of service to their employees.
So are you looking to, you're not here as the business for the person, are you setting up the business yourself?
I am not. I am
You're just representing the owner of the property, right?
correct.
Are there any, do you have any people that are actually come to you, would like to do this for a business?
I do. He's with me.
Okay, all right. And,
Right now?
right, how many people are, how many businesses you looking at? Just one for now? Or?
Right now, one. We'd
Yep.
like the option to do two.
Yep.
We're happy to,
So
happy.
you're looking for 2 floors?
We have 2 floors. Currently,
All
one
right.
is under development. The next
Okay. Yep, so this would just be, how much of square footage are we talking about for?
probably less than 500 square feet
Yep,
per.
okay,
No.
all right. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
No. It's,
Okay. Yeah, I think this board has had maybe 1 or 2 massage therapy petitions come before us in the past. Again, can't speak for everybody on the board, but if you have nothing to add, we're going to open it up to the public at this point. Okay? Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and the board. My name is Randy Matthew. I live at 240 Jackson Street. I've read the request for the special permit wherein the petitioner states it's part of the greater intention to offer community space that encourages healthy living. It has an enticement to new businesses, and he suggests the massage component will positively impact the city by bringing new business to the area, and city services will be negligibly impacted. As a resident, which is of 240 Jackson Street, which is attached to Mill 5 building at 250/300 Jackson Street, I'd like to present my perspective of the neighborhood and the character, excuse me, and the character of the Mill 5 development, and explain why I'm suggesting the zoning board denies the petitioner's request. Excuse me, I had a major sinus surgery that I'm recovering from. I'm fine. Today, Jackson Street is characterized by residential lofts, artist lofts, and a multicultural elementary school and health center. Each has well-developed unique activity, access, and traffic patterns. There is also a new trial court development slated to break ground in 2015. The Mill 5 development, which is attached to 240 Jackson Street in the center of the block, has been going on for over a year and has been best described by the Boston Globe in this article from 2013, and I have a link here. I will give this to the board. The article describes it as a labor of love of Konstantin Valuli and his friend from high school and business partner, Jim Lachulis. The result will be something of a Disneyland for hipsters, unfurling one big block-long stretch at heart an office building for small businesses and technology startups with a kind of fun house brio to attract eclectic, offbeat, and hip. Even with the opening months away, most of the building is already under lease with more than 50 enterprises lured by the low rents and easy terms. That's my paraphrasing. However, in all the time since they have been developing their labor of love funhouse, there has been no indication in the neighborhood of any serious enterprises or tech startups, let alone 50 of them. So far, the building is occupied by an occasional flea market event, a record store, and some craft stores. Also, it should be noted that the building is not a block-long stretch as they imagine. Half of the block is occupied by an elementary school and private condominium residences. The activity, access, and traffic patterns are not well defined for Mill 5, and to date, the new activity has negatively impacted residents of 240 Jackson Street and brought sketchy activity to our building and neighborhood. There is increased foot traffic trying to access Mill 5, which seems to be rarely accessible. Unknown non-residents enter the security doors of 240 Jackson Street, which is where various packages for the residents typically sit. Recently, the postman has decided it is too unsafe to leave packages there anymore, which makes it difficult for us to receive our deliveries. It also seems that Mill 5 is becoming most popular as a new nightclub. Perhaps because in addition to being proprietor of Mill 5, Jim Lachulis is also on the board of directors for Howell Media, howellmag.com, which is the perfect place for advertising concerts. And I have a link there for you as well. On Saturday, January 12th at 10:30 p.m., on Sunday, January 12th at 10:30 p.m., loud music was playing just on the other side of the wall adjacent to 240 Jackson Street, not more than 10 yards from people's bedrooms. The Lowell police were called to intervene. And this is the next part, which is amazing to me. Again, on January 24th, they scheduled yet another concert with 4 bands with complete disregard for the previous incident. The music was in the same place and volume, and the police were called. I have to wonder if this is part of the funhouse atmosphere designed to attract business, or if Mill 5 is merely a new rock club. As a resident of the neighborhood, I am concerned about the type of foot traffic a concert venue brings, and I'm also concerned about the foot traffic that multiple massage parlors would bring. I find that Mill 5 is disrespectful to the neighborhood that it claims to be a benefit to, and is having a negative impact on the area. I think giving a special permit to Jim Lachulis for massage parlors on the 4th and 5th floors of a dark and mostly locked up building seems like a recipe for more and continued negative impact. I wasn't feeling well, but I went around to many of the neighbors at 240 Jackson Street, and I gave them the opportunity to sign a document saying I just don't want any massage parlors, or sign my statement, which describes the character of the operation there. And I would say 90%, 10 out of the 12 decided to sign my document to express their not wanting massage parlors. Because there's no idea what will happen if they are granted such a thing. And I also am very concerned about their other activities, such as the concert hall. And the latest posting in our building was for the next festival to be selling adult gifts, which seems to indicate that they want to be this is not an adult gift neighborhood. And some people put comments that they don't feel it. One person doesn't think the massage parlors fit into the historic district of the Hamilton Canal. I sent this to Catherine Murphy in email today. I didn't know where to send this, but I can gladly give this to you. Thank you.
Did you hear anything about an email to Kathy Murphy?
Unfortunately, Kathy retired last week, but we did get it today morning, and he said he's going to present it at the meeting today.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you. Okay. You all set, sir? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? 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 Okay. So before we proceed, I'd mentioned, Swati, I'd mentioned earlier to this representative, I can think of one massage therapist that was going to come in here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even know if you know, but I believe they came in with their own petition and represented themselves. I don't think the building owner per se came in, so can you just elaborate?
The last time, you're right, it was the massage therapist who was seeking the permit. Now, Ms. Sarah has actually provided the certification for one of the therapists who will be occupying one of the businesses. So hence the comment was more about, the other business.
So in the package,
It's a state-issued
Derek
permit.
Suhu, is it? If that's,
Yep.
is he Derek?
Yes,
Okay.
that's Derek.
Hopefully I didn't butcher your name, but, so I see that's in here, and then there's the Board of Massage Therapy with Derek's name on it also, right?
Yes. So that is for one business, and hence we need a similar certification for the other business that will eventually, they're seeking for. So it could be a condition where we are looking at only upon, receiving such a similar certification which authenticates the therapist, will the second business get an occupancy permit.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that
Sure.
because just based on what we went through before, the building owner didn't come before us, the actual owner did, so.
If I might comment, the intention on our part for doing that was twofold, actually. The first was when we learned that the cost to the applicant would be $1 per abutter in order to process the application, we thought that as, the owner who intended to also have another one, let me start over. We didn't think it was fair to ask Derek or any massage therapist who's just, starting up to pay a cost like that as a small business owner. We wanted to help with that. We feel that's kind of a core aspect of what we're trying to do at Mill 5 by creating scenarios for small business startups that are not impossible and that allow them to start and not be in a position of hardship before they can thrive. So that was one intention. And then the second was we would like to be able to do this. We like the idea of having two and simply seemed like not to waste everyone's time if it was an option.
Okay. I don't remember if I closed the public open meeting there, so I'm closing that now. Where were the, so I took a ride by the facility.
Yeah.
Where will these patrons be entering? What building, what door?
Sure, we're 250 Jackson Street is the official entrance for Mill Number 5 right now. There's a stairwell where they could enter in, and we're in the process of outfitting a freight elevator, which will be a main entrance on the ground floor as well. That is not yet complete. We anticipate it'll be complete in the next month or so. So right now, 250 Jackson Street, they may enter in the stairwell.
Is that the only spot of egress into the building? Is that the only way you can get into that building?
Correct. So currently there is an entrance, 250 and 240 share a lobby, and that lobby, there's an elevator for Mill 5, and there's an elevator for the adjacent condos. In that elevator, the entrance is separated with a door with a key and a lock, and that
Ma'am, you can't speak out.
You can see on the building plan, there's no...
Sir, you can't, the way, you can't.
That's a lie. I live there, and I didn't sign up to this.
So this is another entrance. Basically, that is an entrance that we really have only our tenants using. They have access to that. We have an elevator there, and they do go up and down. We have it because of handicap access, because it's a 4-flight walk up, 3-flight walk up. We have to have an alternative for people to come inside. We discourage it. It's actually much easier to tell someone to go to 250 and walk up the stairs than tell them to go to 240, wait for us to come downstairs, get them in the door. You know, people find it confusing and often don't end up there anyway. So while we're building this greater entrance, we're just, you know, sometimes we'll go up there, but it's not the main entrance.
What's the, if it was approved, what's the business hours? Do we know at this point?
At this point, our tenants, no, we haven't limited access at this point. We're not in a space and at a point in the development where we are requiring our tenants to be open for a certain amount of time or anything like this. We didn't want to limit them at this point because we want them to be able to to do business.
Okay. All right. Anything else at this point?
Regarding the permit, no, we just
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I'm going to open it up to the board now. Van, any questions?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the applicant, could you just, I know you gave us a quick kind of summary of the business, but, so you need the 4th and 5th floor for this type of business? Can you just say, like, why, or kind of the overlay of?
Sure. Yeah, so we have 2 floors of 250 Jackson Street. Actually, on the floor that we're developing right now, there are multiple spaces for rent. This is just one single space two spaces that we're talking about, less than 500 square feet each, within sort of for lack of a better word, a mall type setup, where, you know, there are multiple shops and offices inside. So it's a mixed use space. We have a record shop. We're working on building our yoga studio right now as part of the massage studio sort of environment. We have a farm to table cafe that we're almost finished building. We're really trying to create a different sort of an environment there that we think will draw, you know, new businesses, especially things like startups who will really, we think, benefit the city of Lowell and its economy. We currently have a company in there now called Unity Technologies. They've been here since we got our occupancy permit. And they're a, gaming, they are a software company that creates engines and environments for games on pretty much any piece of, technology you can imagine. They're fully legit. The company has offices in Copenhagen and in San Francisco. We are now the place where the headquarters have their central meeting. We've really become an important place for their business to do. We are the Boston office for a global company at this point. We think that's awesome.
I always think it's a good idea when, new business want to open up in the city, but I just want to make sure, that it benefits everybody, the whole neighborhood, all the abutters. I'm just curious, did you solicit any kind of, just kind of get their perspective on things, like the abutters, to see what they thought about?
Sure. In fact, some of our tenants live across the street at Appleton Mills. We have, I'm trying to think, one in particular that I can think of offhand, and we've had multiple interactions with people across at Appleton who are in support of what we're doing and have wanted to participate. We also, Mr. Lachulis is the trustee for Appleton Mill Number 5 Realty Trust, which I believe is the owner of the entire building, including Cotton House Lofts. This lobby is under it's their building, this shared lobby where this conflict has happened. I myself have reached out to the trustees, of which Mr. Lachulis is a board member, I believe. but there's not an there was no way, they're not organized to handle the interaction. So I myself have talked to a couple of the residents and have offered to have people come up and talk to me with anything that's, you know, of concern for them. We have the utmost respect for who we're you know, operating next door to. And, but honestly, they were not able to handle my outreach to, you know, to create some sort of a relationship for feedback. And it sort of fell through. And we're, you know, that's, so it is there. We have, I have a relationship personally, not personally, but with a couple of the residents who have hung flyers for us, who are interested and supportive of what's going on next door, and have done their best to sort of circulate our flyers and whatnot for the participant of the residents. We had a Christmas tree sale there over the winter, which we thought was a pretty cool thing to offer the residents, sort of pajama, you know, access to their holiday decorations, you know, at the foot of their stairs. We are all about creating an environment which is peaceful and takes into consideration everyone around. Happy at any time to listen and talk and create solutions.
Thank you for that information.
Sure.
I'm going to look forward to what my colleagues have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a few questions. If you could give me some background on the building itself. How long has the Mill 5 been up and running as a group that's looking to have these small companies or small businesses, startups, get located?
So to the best of my knowledge, as I have been there since about April, the new construction began about a year and a half ago, I want to say. About a year and a half ago. And it's still under construction. Since we got the occupancy permit, which I want to say was in June or July, but again, I can't recall exactly. We've had a number of tenants actually come to occupy the space and have been doing business there since that time.
So it's been roughly 6 or 7 months that you've been gathering tenants and filling space?
Yep.
How many square feet do you have total that's occupiable at the moment?
Right now? Okay, so you're my poor sense. I'm going to say half of the half of the full size of the floor, because I have poor perception, and it's either 35,000 square feet on the floor or twice that. It might actually, I guess we could refer to the plot plan.
It says 56,000 square feet for the total floor footprint, so
okay,
maybe
so
it's half of that.
We're about halfway down. We're still developing the second half. We are halfway down the hall, you could say.
Okay, so 29,000 square feet. And how much of that square footage is rented? Or do you have businesses for?
I have about 13 businesses. The units vary in size. I believe there is the floor plan. I'd be happy to, that's sort of language that I can speak better in. I don't know if I have one in front of me, but if you start at, there's one side, I believe that they're numbered on, say, to your left, if you put number 405. So 405 is on one end. If you take between 405 and I believe 439, we are almost fully occupied. And on the opposite side, I believe we start at we're occupied in number 404, which would be closer to you, the furthest side. This is helpful. And through on that side about 4, the cafe is, I believe, like 434. We're down to the cafe and Victorian Lounge, which probably 434, 439. I don't have it in front of me.
And what's your schedule for building out the rest of that floor, as far as finishing it for occupancy?
We hope to be finished within probably a year.
Okay, so another 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay. The massage therapy locations are going, there's 2 spots here on this floor, and it seems like the,
May I approach? I can be more clear.
location 2, it seems as though that's in the side that's already occupied as far as fit
Yes.
up.
Yep.
And location 1 is in the side that's not.
Or location, did I number them that way?
Maybe you did, yeah.
I believe I numbered.
Okay.
I can show you if I may.
Sure. This location 1. And one last thing, did you suggest that this is on the 4th floor, there's also a possibility of being on the 3rd or 5th floor as well?
We have a 5th floor, which is currently underdeveloped, not at all developed, but
So
we
this
intend to. That would be the next project.
So tonight, we're looking for a special permit for massage therapy to occupy this facility anywhere, or?
We were just looking for some flexibility because half of it is not constructed. We're really just looking for some flexibility. And massage studios come in various types and are not difficult to move from one place to another. There's not a lot of infrastructure, they don't need a lot of things. So it's really quite, if we had a space where we could accommodate someone and it seemed like a good fit, then we'd like to be able to do that.
I know of a massage therapy location that I use up in Chelmsford that's in a building that's for office condos and medical and chiropractors' offices and all kinds of things. And so I'm just trying to envision how this would be successful in this kind of application, or if it's a different kind of massage therapy altogether. So I'm trying to see how they would have. It's sort of a destination kind of thing where people are not spontaneously coming in and becoming interested in massage just by
the lack of storefront windows.
Right. And you're on the 4th floor or 5th floor.
Right. And that's why the yoga studio is a key to that.
I imagine that would make a lot of sense. Yeah. And the hours that you'd be open for the facility, is it 24/7? Any hour of the day, people are using different offices and come and go as they. Is that kind of the norm?
Nobody does that. We haven't limited them. We have Howl Magazine, who sometimes they work really hard to produce what they do. We didn't want to have to tell them they had to go home and stop writing. But most of the tenants that are in there really are operating through a relationship they have with online communities. For example, there's a company, record store called Vinyl Destination. They sort of specialize in a certain, type of record. And they tell their online community, we're open basically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to be there from 4 to 7, and come by then, and that's when they're there. And that's really how most of the businesses have been operating at this point.
Is there anything you can say to address the concern of the resident with the loud music that happened on 2 occasions that didn't seem to be a good mix for the community there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been in the last month, I believe. There were 2. We had a couple of graduates from UMass Lowell who were very excited to come to the space. They were looking for a space to bring some indie bands, local bands in the area who were first-time performers. And they're starting their own booking company and trying to bring these bands in and create something for themselves and something for their way for their friends to start out. First one happened, I want to say like maybe it was a month ago, and word was something about a bass drum that was very loud, and we got a call, and that had happened. This was the first time anything like this had happened. We've had other, things there without problem. So that was the first time we discussed it, obviously, and have not heard that there were any problems since. There was an event there on Friday. We were not told that happened. There was a noise complaint again. So we believe that it was under control. I don't know the full story of that for sure. But as far as my understanding is it's been fine since.
It just seems like if you have a loud music kind of facility, that you take care as to containing it so that it doesn't interrupt the neighbors or the other tenants in the building.
Understood.
So I'm just kind of trying to
understand. Yeah, no, understood. And
okay.
It was unexpected. We hadn't had that problem before, and it was unexpected, and we believe we nipped it in the bud. We're happy to follow any recommendations of the board for doing that. Not a problem.
Well, I'm excited about the facility taking on these startup companies and having an opportunity for these companies to have a low-rent facility that's in a district that's kind of trying to fulfill this art community aesthetics. So I like the idea of it. I'm not sure there are enough controls in place to really pull it together in a successful way that the community is, respected.
Yeah.
So I'm a little apprehensive about how this whole thing kind of has any controls in the setup, So,
yes.
Anyway.
And I'm happy to think more about that. Hear any recommendations from the board.
Okay.
We just want a successful space. We really want to live and thrive there, and we want our neighbors to thrive. Be happy to talk with you themselves. Understood. Understood.
Okay, let's get back to the, so I'm just going to briefly speak about noise, and that has nothing to do with this board. If there's anything about noise, there's a noise ordinance in the city of Lowell. You can address that. I believe it's with the Board of Health. I know you haven't heard about calling the police, but there's a noise ordinance in the city of Lowell. I believe the health department handles that. So that's one source you can go. And if anything with businesses going in there, if there's going to be businesses going in and they're going to have loud music, all this other stuff, then I'd probably investigate with the License Commission what businesses are going in there, and are they properly licensed. I don't know if this is true or not true, but it's the same thing with nightclubs, everything else. The city has had enough issues with clubs and noise in general, so that's another avenue, but that has nothing to do with this board, so I just want to clear that up, because I think we're getting off base here. We're talking about a massage therapy going in there. So, Gary, next.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as it relates to location 1 and location 2, how many employees are going to be at each site?
Derek is one. We didn't intend to limit that, but the space is 500 square feet, unless there was some sort of, we'd really prefer to have probably 1 or 2 maximum people in sharing a space. We just want it to be open so that it's usable by the folks who are operating a business there in the community, for reasonable numbers of hours in a day.
And currently, you only have one occupant at this time. You have one confirmed therapist,
Correct.
the other is a vision.
Correct.
It's a business vision to have two within the community. Is that,
Yeah, we have relationships,
Okay.
certainly, but we don't have anyone who has signed a lease with us or anything.
just to touch on the hours of operation, it's a flowing commercial residential mixed use at this point. Is that a fair statement? Where
I think that's fair.
it's multi-purpose, and you have your startups, and, if you're starting up a business, if you have to work till midnight, 3 a.m. in the morning to get your product out, that's part of being a startup and an entrepreneur. I think I do agree to have limitations on hours would be a detriment to what you're trying to do over there. Was there any particular reason why they're separated? Is it space? Is it space? Are they independent of each other? I guess is the real question.
Yeah, originally we had both in the area which was beside the yoga studio, and really Derek was interested in using a space, and we wanted to be able to do that. And Derek, actually the combination is Derek is also a ceramic artist, which we thought was a really neat thing. He actually occupies 2 spaces, so that allowed him to do 2 of the things that were important to him, and we still have 1 space where we can sort of create this sort of wellness center concept.
That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to follow up on the question about, through you to the applicant, or maybe to Swathi. The proposal is asking for 1 or 2 massage therapy businesses on the 4th or 5th floor. And I'm just wondering, maybe from an administrative side, do we have to have a specific business in a specific location in order to approve it?
The board is familiar with more concrete applications, I would say, where the building owner or the whoever, the trustee or someone, has identified the potential business ventures. So this is a very unique case. I personally have not dealt with an application where the business has not identified the potential tenants. With that in mind, and considering the fact that the proposed use is a massage use which requires a mandatory special permit from the ZBA, we cannot say that we cannot issue a permit without the potential tenant if the space meet the requirements and if it is not in hindrance to any other neighboring or abutting uses. But we do need to make sure that it's an authentic business. So right now we have authentic information about the 1 tenant they have. We need to make sure, because this is a very specific use that mandates a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So ideally we would like to know where the location is, whether both of them will be on the 4th floor or the 5th floor. But having them either on the same floor or a separate floor will not impact a zoning perspective as much as a business competition, which is, the next potential tenants, it may work in favor or it will be in competition, depending on what kind of massage therapist is going to assume that position. So from our office, we have to make sure what we are permitting is something that is legally conforming to the zoning code. So to answer your question, it is not in conflict as long as there is a condition which mandates checking the authenticity of the potential second business. So it's up to the board to decide whether you are comfortable with doing that, or at that point asking the applicant to come, as like a follow-up, as another business, to get that approved, that part approved at that time.
Thank you. And just another question about that. The petitioner also mentioned that if a business or one of these particular businesses wasn't working out in the location, would they have to return to us to get a new permit? In other words, if location 2 at the end of the far end of the building, or whichever location 1, wasn't seeing any foot traffic, and the therapist decided that they wanted to move to another part of the building, is that something they can do without our input, or?
That is up to the board to condition that. You can definitely seek more concrete plan from the applicant where they're indicating where this will be going so that it is not in conflict with any other neighboring businesses on the same floor or within the building. But that is totally up to the discretion of the board. So if, for example, if a permit is issued where the applicant is allowed the flexibility of locating it anywhere on building 4, if they choose to move it from let's say where the foot traffic is lesser to an area where they identify the foot traffic is better to attract more business or for convenience of their clients, once it has been issued, then the board does not have any control over that issued approval.
Just one other question through you, Mr. Chairman, or just again curious about the elevator issue. I know it's not something that I guess we're really may not have any say in, but I do understand that it may have been an issue for a while. The fact that there's an old elevator, a new elevator, a freight elevator being renovated. And now it's been 1.5 years since, I guess, renovations began. I guess I'm just curious to know, where you are with, or where the developer is with trying to separate the two, the residential property from the commercial property, if I can ask that. So.
Happy to answer. We have had the company in charge of setting up our freight elevator in-house, working as many days as they'll agree to come for the last month. And I believe the other day we were told that they would be done mid-March. As soon as that happens, we intend as soon as it's fully ready to go, meaning that we can secure it and whatnot, not just that it's a functioning elevator, but that we can do everything, whatever that would be, to make sure that it's usable and that we can lock it down and whatnot. Then we intend to use that elevator for all access. It was really, it's much bigger. It makes a lot more sense for us, for tenants moving in their stuff, which is bigger than a passenger elevator size. So we fully intend to do that and have been waiting to do that. Unfortunately, it's often difficult to control contractors to get them to come sooner. So like I said, I believe it's about mid-March when that elevator will be up and running, and we should be able to direct people to that elevator at that time, which we intend to do.
I don't have any further questions.
Okay, Gary.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as it relates to the designated sites on the plan and in your petition, I believe I heard you comment earlier that at some point, if the therapist isn't happy in that location, he can he or she can seek other spaces within the building. Which kind of at this point leads me through the chairman to Swati. Does that turn this petition into an open invitation for them to seek any open space within that facility?
Yes, it does. If it's indicating 2 floors, that's the only set things that have been, indicated to us. So anywhere on the floor.
So after 30 days, we're not comfortable in space 1, we move to space 3. 30 days later, we move to space 5, and so on and so on and so on. For me personally, it doesn't seem like a very firm commitment of knowing where this business is established. If we're able to look at how petitions and applications are brought to the board, we're always looking for concise, complete applications. As it relates to moving these things, does that then become unknown to us where this business is actually placed? Other than we have a generic space of floor 4 or 5, which is concerning to me, and I would then, in common thought, think that this is an incomplete application at this point, because you're arbitrarily seeking a permit for a business within the 4th or 5th floor. We do have credentials for 1, however, we don't have credentials for the 2nd, which I would require a condition of prior to any approval. But from my standpoint at this point, I don't feel comfortable, because there's no, every other permit, every other business has a specific address, office 5, floor 5, floor 4. And to be able to arbitrarily, from my point of view, to make an approval or these things, these 2 businesses would just move in happenstance according to foot traffic, as my colleague mentioned, and or lack of foot traffic or space is concerning as I look at this as face value. I don't recall any other petition that has come before this board in my time that says they will open said business on Main Street between number 1 and number 550. And if I'm not comfortable at 15, I will then move to 28. Kind of takes the control of zoning out of this board's hands, and I'm quite frankly not comfortable with that this is a complete application at this point. I understand what you're trying to do and generate business and entrepreneurs and having the ability to have your clients move from space to space, but our obligation, as far as I look at my obligation, is to the zoning board of appeals, the code, and to have a defined space. That's how I stand at this point. I don't feel as though this is a complete application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Speak? May I address? Yeah, sure. On the plot plan, we did indicate the 2 current spaces that we're interested in. Happy to nail that down if it makes the board comfortable with the scenario. We're not looking to create problems. We're just really looking for whatever flexibility we can have to accommodate people. We're in a construction, setup partial construction setup right now. And we want businesses to thrive, so we're just trying to maintain some flexibility, but if it pleases the board, we're happy to stick with those 2 spaces and go from there. And we're happy to have, a review once when the second space, when we actually have a relationship with a lease and a licensed therapist who's interested in going into that space. We're happy to have that information sent, have someone come out, look at the space, invite you to see the space as it is to maybe get a better sense of what we're trying to do there too. It's really quite harmless.
May I just add 2 cents to that? So ideally, from a zoning office perspective, it is recommended that it will be based on a specific location as indicated on the plan. Now, the applicant, has the option to approach the board as an other items business should that location does not work out for them if they have an alternate, in due time. But it has to be with the board's acknowledgement. If they want to do that, they have to make sure that the next proposed location meets certain criteria which made this first location work well for the zoning requirements. So that is an option they can have. So we understand they're testing this out as a location for new small businesses. So, if they have the space available, it still needs the board to review and say it's okay for them to relocate if they present why that second case will be a better improvement over the first one.
Through Mr. Chairman, I certainly appreciate your knowledge in providing the information. My comments were for a defined location. I certainly understand your ability to generate and keep your customers happy and move that, but there's no office number on either one of these locations. My site plan has handwritten location 1, location 2. I'm not sure if my colleagues have the same thing. I would feel much more comfortable if it was defined 4th floor, office 205, office 15, and if there was a change in venue, I would choose to have a condition that you would have to come in again and seek that request, so that I think it's imperative that the board has the control over where the special permits are being issued into the site and the space that they're being issued. So that's kind of my point right now, is to define this more realistically as it is to the zoning.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Gary in that I feel this is an insufficient application in as far as the information we need from the applicant. 2 things that I'd like to see is a floor plan that identifies the businesses on the floor that are adjacent to it, and the location that this is going with a square footage dedicated, understanding how that square footage is being used, maybe even a layout of the space as far as how it would be used, as far as the equipment that would be in the space. And one thing that I really feel is missing is some kind of community support validating the need for this in this location. Some kind of group of neighbors or adjacent businesses, or something that kind of basically helps us understand why this needs to be approved in this location for a special permit. I don't really hear that being defined. I don't see. I mean, I heard you say that some people live across the street and are in support of it. Those 2 pieces are important for me to understand how you would operate here and be successful. So I feel it's insufficient from those 2 characteristics in particular. Thank you.
Is there a process for submitting additional information, or does this mean we start over and go?
No, I don't think we're starting over. I guess I've been listening to all the comments, but I'm following where this is going, but, so if the application was insufficient to begin with, I guess I would look at DPD to, ascertain what's required. We'll call it the minimum requirements for the application. That's why I'm trying to understand why are we talking about how the application was presented, if you want to expound on that.
Sure. The board has the authority to require additional information. So from a staff perspective, since the public process has been opened, we also have a clock that's ticking. So definitely the board can request the applicant to come back with the specific information, and the meeting can be continued to a later date upon receiving such.
I don't think it's that the the application was not sufficient. I believe the board has more questions. So I look at this as like, continuing it based on certain information that some board members need.
Yes.
Because I'm going back to this other one that we had before that I was on the board for, and I don't recall we even got into, the application was insufficient.
No, they did meet all the requirements
Okay.
of submitting an application.
Yeah.
The address location was the only concern, but, for us, the thing was it was the owner approaching, so they had the flexibility of assigning it to any of the spaces.
Yeah.
So that was the reason why it was accepted. Definitely, it has been made clear by the board that there is more specificity to the location that is needed. So definitely additional information will suffice.
Sathi, what district is the building in?
It's in the downtown mixed use?
DMU, right?
Yes.
Okay. And this is under 12.4K, right? This
Yes.
is what we're talking about, right? Yep. I didn't see, it kept talking about the table of uses, but it's 12.4K, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And under DMU? Okay. All right. So the reason why I asked is I can remember, again, being on the board, not it's the same thing, but because we're talking about the particular type of business going in there, there was what's the proper word we use? It's not a tattoo establishment. Body art establishment, I think is what we politically correct call it. Was going on Middlesex Street, and there was an issue about the school that's in building 250, if it is building 250, around the radius within that. So I know that came up, and then there was, but I didn't receive anything that talked about the school in opposition to this massage therapy going in there. I do know that the city mentioned about the parking requirements. There's no parking requirements because of the city garage, so there's no issues around parking. I also remember for that same facility on Middlesex Street, there was a business, I guess I'll call it neighborhood group. I forget what their title is. I don't know if they're still in existence.
Chambra?
I'm sorry?
Chambra, possibly?
I don't.
They exist there.
I don't remember the name, but they were pretty visible when that particular establishment wanted to go in there. In the beginning, they were in opposition, and then after things were discussed, it eventually was approved and ratified after going through all the hurdles. So I didn't see them showing up. Again, I don't know if they exist, just to either support or be in denial of a particular type of business. But I think that maybe helps Dennis with his comments about people in the neighborhood supporting it. I'm just putting that out there.
Sure.
If some of the members are looking for more information, so that might be something else you want to, that's up to you whether you want to solicit.
Sure.
I think I addressed some of the concerns you had, sir, at the podium regarding noise and stuff, and if I didn't take care of your request, then I didn't need to entertain it. I'm just trying to help you with it, but that'll hopefully ratify that. I'm speaking. You can't talk to me right now. You can't talk to me right now. So I have no problem with the board. Board members need some additional information with continuing this. I guess maybe I would just ask that whatever members need some more information, that the petitioner totally understands what they need to come back with, and then we'll entertain the date that they'll come back here for, because it may take you some time to put this together. So if the members want to explain what they need.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would like to see a defined office space numbered, and then we can, for both locations, location 1 and location 2. And as it relates to that, upon that meeting, I will look to condition if there was a move from those locations that you submit, that it would then become another petition to come to the board.
Dennis?
I'd like to add that, this is a big building that has a lot of tenants living together on the same floor, that we really understand the mix that we have on that floor and understand the support that we have for this use with that mix that exists. So a plan that identifies the other tenants and identifies maybe support from those other tenants for this use. Thank you.
Any other board members have any things they need? Mike, anything?
I do, just for the second unit, so we have a second unit without an address and without a tenant. So I guess I don't know if it's within the rules, but I wouldn't want to entertain approving the second location without an address and without a tenant. We do have all of the first potential tenants' licensing information, so I would be fine going forward if the other conditions are met. But the second unit is, you're just asking for a space, I think, that may never be filled, or if it's going to be filled, we don't know by who and whether they're licensed to do that at this time. So it's leaving that space open, if that makes sense, Swathi. I'm not sure if, and I don't know if we can separate, again, being new to the board, if we can separate.
The board can take a decision to issue the approval only for, the one business and deny it for the other. That's totally up to the discretion of the board based on insufficient information you have.
That's all I have.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so our next meeting is February 10th, and then the one after that's February 24th. So I'll leave it to your discretion if you think you'd be prepared by the 10th. If not, we can go to February 24th. It's not.
I think we'd be prepared by the 10th.
Okay, so one of the things I usually ask of the petitioners, and this always becomes sometimes an issue for some people, if we're meeting on the 10th, I don't want to receive information back from you to the city the same day as the meeting or the day before.
Right.
So that's to give the board members enough opportunity to review what's being resubmitted and time to review it, maybe ask questions if needed. So that's why I throw it out there.
We usually, we need it at least a week before the meeting so that we have time to review it and also share it with the board members.
So that's why I'm bringing this up,
Yeah,
because
understood.
now it doesn't become 2 weeks, it becomes, you almost have to
Few
have it ready
days.
in a week. And
Yeah, feel relatively confident we'll have the support, but it's a little bit of organizing to do. And I'd like time to consult with
well,
the
why don't we
department to make
we'll
sure
schedule
we're-
it for the 10th, and this is another thing I've asked petitioners, if you get a week away and you don't think you're gonna make it, just put some communication to DPD that, you'd like to see continuance, and then that way we don't have to wait till the day before or the day of and then wonder what's going on. So, I'll give you that latitude. So we'll schedule it for the 10th.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Just may I ask clarification from Mr. McCarthy about looking for information identifying, there were two things, identifying the tenants and then support from the tenants. Is that obviously we have tenants who are renting space from us, and then we have abutters. I didn't know which issue, are you addressing the larger issue as well, and how specifically would you like two statements or two collections of information, kind of, as they are kind of unique entities?
So I think primarily it would be the tenants on the floor that I'd be looking for support, that we have a team or a community that wants this use on that floor because it's more important to them. But I think you mentioned that there was support in the adjacent building, that there were people that were supporting this as far as maybe even using the massage therapy as
Right.
clients. So both would be ideal if
Okay,
possible.
sure. Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
just based
All
on-
right, can I? Oh,
It's through you, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, so we're all in understanding of what the board is asking outside of what Dennis just, Mr. McCarthy just gave you, is we're looking for a defined space and office number, and I think we need to reduce it to the one petition where we have the credentials. As
That-
Michael, Mr. Paglia has addressed, so that we're not approving an empty space petition. Can we do that?
You can do that. For the second one thing we discussed, and I just wanted to, either just looking at that one petition where we have a specific location and we have a tenant who has already committed to it. The second one can be a specific location, but with the condition that the occupancy permit will be issued only upon submitting credentials of the tenant to the board
Okay.
prior to the occupancy permit being issued. So those are two options,
Okay.
and the board may choose to lean towards one or the other.
My only concern would be that would be that open space, if it became an issue with any of the board members, that it was denied for that second space. If it was denied, then that creates a problem for the petitioner, which is a hardship, and I don't want to create that. So as long as we're all in
Sure.
understanding agreement that second space would have those conditions on it, we'll make that available at the time of the meeting. Does that satisfy everyone's needs?
it's fine with me.
Chairman?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we all set? All right, could I have a motion to, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is ZB 2013-45 for a special permit at 300 Jackson Street. I make a motion to continue to February 10th, 2014.
Have a second?
Second the motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Continue to February 10th.
Mr. Paglia?
Continue to February 10th?
Mr. McCarthy?
Continue to February 10th.
Mr. Peck?
Continue to February 10th.
Mr. Perrin?
Continue to February 10th.
Okay, so we'll see you hopefully on February 10th.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. Yep. Okay, I guess that's concludes our agenda this evening. Any other comments for any board members? Hearing none, so our next meeting is February 10th. And if there's no other matters to discuss, like a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Second?
So moved.
Ask you a question. We got these in the mail to be here tonight.